Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. I know you probably clicked into this video to get some Davante Adams trade rumors. Guess what? You're going to get them. Also, you'd probably get lucky if you use Manscaped. So go to manscaped.com, use code Raiders for 20% off. Coming up here on the Raiders Report, there's people out there saying that Davante Adams is going to get traded. I am here to tell you that it's not going to happen, and I'm going to show you why exactly it's not going to happen. The Raiders, they signed a cornerback yesterday. I'll fill you in on who that was. And we got some updates from Raiders training camp today that I think needs to be discussed. So the reason why people are talking about Davante Adams and all the trade rumors out there, Fox Sports put something out that apparently they heard something that the Jets and the Raiders could make a deal for Davante. But there's two Twitter accounts that are really pushing it, and I want to be able to talk about it. There will soon be stories that Davante Adams wants out from the Las Vegas Raiders and that he wants to join the New York Jets and his former quarterback Aaron Rodgers per Craig, I'm going to call him Cartoon, of Fox Sports. That would be insane if true. It would be insane if it was true. NFL Rooms then goes out and says, there will be rumors swirling that Las Vegas Raiders Davante Adams could be asking for a trade soon. Blah, 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 blah. If you see reports from MLF football or NFL Rooms or that Wi-Fi guy that makes content about the Raiders, you might as well take it and wipe your ass with it because that's all that it is, right? I hate when people call me clickbait because I have to make a title for a video. And unfortunately, there's going to be people screaming, clickbait! Well, here's the thing. I make videos around when people bring up stories like this because that is my job. Is it clickbait? No, and if you watch the video, you would know it's not freaking clickbait, man. So be honest with me here. Do you think Davante Adams is going to get traded? I want you to type T for trade, or I think that you could type your S for Davante is going to end up staying with the silver and black. So is Davante going to get traded? Hell the F no. And in fact, if you believe Adams is going to get traded, well then, hey man, I got to tell you this. I know a Nigerian prince named Chugs who is in trouble and needs your financial help. All I need right now is your email, and I would really be able to help him out a lot. In fact, Davante Adams said today, mark it down, according to Raiders Scout, he said, I want to retire in a Raiders jersey, nothing else. I believe that. Does Davante want to chase a Super Bowl trophy? No doubt about it. But you also got to think about the fact that Davante's 31 years old. His family does not fly. One of the biggest reasons why Davante wanted to go to the Raiders is because his grandfather was never able to go to his games in Green Bay because he has a fear of flying. The very first time the Raiders and the Chargers played, when Davante was on the team last season, bought him a suite so he was able to go to the game. I understand that teams want to win Super Bowls, but I also understand that teams want to build a family. He just built a brand new house in Las Vegas. He's closer to his family in California. So you're telling me he's going to want to go all the way to the other side of the country in New York? Bottom line, it ain't happening. So if you see Davante Adams trade bullshit on the internet, send them this video. And if you also want to have other ways of supporting the Raiders Report, we are 100% free. And I get that people can't always send in super chats, like a crazy guy like Buddy Bear, like David Zahn, like Trivan and all Mount Raider more. But you know how you can support the show? You can like every video that I put out, even if you don't like it. You can comment and share your thoughts because that's what we do here, and you can subscribe. And if you don't like what you watch after a week, I tell people, unsubscribe, you never have to come back. Though, I think you will. So let's continue to talk about the Davante Adams trade rumors out there because according to Fox Sports, Adams wants to be traded to the Jets. And the people that are reporting this, I'm telling you right now, flat out, are not credible. I mean, these are the type of people that are saying, hey, I got beachfront property in Montana. There's no beachfront property in Montana. And Adams doesn't want to be traded. And on top of that, financially, it doesn't make sense. So when people throw out these trade rumors, a lot of times they don't know what they're talking about because they don't actually look at the numbers. But when you look at the numbers, not only does it make sense, and not only does Adams not want to be traded, but from a contract standpoint, and this is per Spotrac, Davante Adams' 2024 salary, when he restructured it, became fully guaranteed on March 17th, 2023. So spoiler alert, the Las Vegas Raiders are already paying and have already paid Davante Adams for what he will do for this team next season. So trading away Adams means that the Raiders are essentially going to take a dead cap hit of $7.8 million this season, and then another dead cap hit of $16.9 million in 2024. One of the biggest reasons why the Raiders put an out in Adams' contract is to essentially evaluate or maybe reevaluate where Adams is at and where the Raiders are at in 2025. The last time I checked, it's not the year 2025, and if it is, please tell me, because then I've been sleeping for 2 years. And when people think of the idea of trading them to the New York Jets, all people have to do is not be lazy. The biggest problem with social media and the biggest problem in today's world is people are lazy. And people just see a tweet and they click retweet. People just see a YouTube video and they go, oh, wow, that's actually going to happen. Or you could take 30 seconds, 60 seconds out of your time and just do the extra homework and look up Davante Adams' contract on Spotrac, on Over the Cap. Do people really think that the Raiders are going to throw away about $24.7 million to the New York Jets, a team with 0 first-round picks in 2024? Okay, so you're telling me the Raiders are going to say $24.7 mil. See ya. Davante Adams. See ya. And you're not going to give me any first-round picks? I mean, do the math. Think about that. Yesterday, Josh Jacobs said a lot of people don't have common sense. People who think that the Raiders are going to trade Davante Adams to the New York Jets, I'm sorry, you don't have common sense. Let's look at the Adams contract details. He signed a 5-year, $140 million contract in 2022. Now, the potential out in 2025 is a $15.7 million dead cap hit. And when the Raiders made this contract with Adams, it's brilliant. Dave Ziegler continues to show that he is absolutely in his bag in terms of making deals. And Adams' cap hit in 2025 and in 2026 is $44.1 million. So here's the thing. If Adams wants to make $88 million of that $140, guess where he needs to be? On the Las Vegas Raiders in 2025 and in 2026. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report, no more Davante Adams trade rumors. Hopefully, we all can agree Adams isn't getting traded. And if you agree with that statement, for the love of God, hit that like button because I am sick and tired of talking about it. But unfortunately, there's dummies out there. Not saying you. There's dummies out there that think that it's actually going to end up going down. Before I get into the only Jets trade and Raiders Davante Adams deal that I would do, and I mean it's the only one that I would do, I'll tell you about that, but first, I got to spread some love because maybe you're not spreading enough love. Shout out to Manscaped for always showing love to the Raiders Report, and if for whatever reason you're not getting enough love, I'm telling you, it's because your Ken Stabler is covered in a George W. If you're looking to get your hands on the Performance Package, you can do so by going to manscaped.com and using code Raiders. I always laugh when Manscaped sends us the stuff to read because they're always like, hey, man, I want you to talk about your cannonballs. Well, guess what? I am more than happy to tell all of y'all that my cannonballs are ready to get soaking wet because it is the summer after all. And if you look down there right now and you can't see them, I don't think that your girl's going to like that very much. And I get it. Some of y'all are like, my girl likes a bush. I don't think that she does. I'm just going to be real with y'all. I do not think that that's going to end up happening. So use code Raiders to get your hands on the best male grooming products out there. The Lawnmower 4.0. I love the ball toner. It's basically like ball perfume, if you will, ball cologne. The ball deodorant, it's hot as hell. And if you're in Vegas and you're sweating down there, and then you actually get the chance, and she gets the chance to see Caesar's Palace, I don't think she's going to like it if it's all smelly and gross. So the Lawnmower 4.0, the perfect package, all available to all y'all, 20% off at manscaped.com when you use code Raiders. All right, so let's talk about the only trade that I would be willing to do for Davante Adams. And I'm telling you, it's only one trade, and that's it. And guess what? If you're a New York Jets fan and you watch this right now, it's going to be a lot. You know why? Because we got the best receiver in the NFL. I don't care what Madden says. I don't care what voters say. Davante Adams right now, if it's 3rd down and 5, 2nd and goal, game's on the line, I'm throwing the ball to Davante Adams over Justin Jefferson, over Tyreek Hill, over Jamar Chase. I don't care who it is. Davante Adams is getting the football because of the numbers that he's been willing to put up. And I also think it's kind of funny that there's a lot of people that are like, well, he wants to play for a winning team. Yeah, you're probably right. He does probably want to play for a winning team. But he's also coming off arguably a career year with what he did last season in Derek Carr. And I'm telling y'all right now, the Raiders' offense this upcoming season with Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be better than what it was last year. Adams' numbers might take a dip, but the Raiders' offense is going to be better. Why? Jimmy G is going to be able to execute the offense much better than what Derek Carr did. So here is the only trade that I am willing to accept from the New York Jets. If you don't have a first-round pick in 2024, McDaniels and Ziegler, they're not going to take a first-round pick in 2025 because if they fail this year without Davante Adams, then guess what? They're not going to be back in 2025. And sure, you might get that extra year in 2024, which I think they do. But at the end of the day, I'm going to want a second-year receiver in Garrett Wilson, who had 83 catches, over 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns last season. And then I want one of the best defensive tackles in the National Football League. And if that's too much for you, you're not going to get him. Why am I asking for this much? Because if the Raiders trade away Davante, you also are giving up $24.7 million. The Raiders, if they trade away Davante to the Jets, are already paying him for 2024 because his salary is guaranteed. So I am going to ask for a lot. This is the only trade that the Raiders should do for Davante Adams. So my question to you is this. Who wins this trade? Do you think it's the Las Vegas Raiders? I want you to type LV. Or do you think the New York Jets win this trade? Davante is obviously a very, very talented receiver. However, though, he is 31 years old. Is Davante better than Garrett Wilson? Of course he is. But I also know that Quinnen Williams on this defensive line, combine that with Garrett, that's a hell of a deal for the Raiders. And it is technically cheaper from a salary cap standpoint in 2024 and beyond. But I don't want to trade Davante. Like, I don't want to do that. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't think that the New York Jets accept that trade that I proposed either. Why? Because it doesn't make sense for either side. I get that Aaron Rodgers and Davante are buddies. That doesn't mean a trade is going to end up going down. So if you're trading Adams to a team with no first in 2024, to me, you got to get 2 superstars. You traded him away for a first-round pick and a second-round pick. If you can't offer me a first, guess what? I want 2 superstars. And that's going to be the end of these Davante Adams to the New York Jets trade rumors. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report. The Raiders, they signed a cornerback yesterday, and because of our schedule here at Chat Sports, I was unable to make a video around it, so I wanted to be able to fill you guys in and just give you the lowdown on some of the roster moves that this organization did have to make yesterday. So the player that the Raiders signed, well, actually, we got Rolly over here. Chugs is on vacation. I actually want to give some thank yous out to some of the people that I have seen recently that have liked the video, that have commented, and that I know that are subscribed. And I get the fact that, man, I could give a lot of thank yous out, but at the end of the day, these are people who always pop up, and I want to show you guys some love because from the bottom of my heart, if it's not for all y'all out there, I wouldn't be able to do what I do here. I wouldn't be able to put a roof over my head, food on my table, and show love to the fam, right? So shout out to Steven69, shout out to DS, shout out to Refined Zeus. Seriously, bottom of my heart, I appreciate you. And if you do like the video, if you do comment, and if you are subscribed, I'm going to do my best to get you guys a shout out here on the Raiders Report. All right, so look at the newest Raider. Kinda. The Las Vegas Raiders, they signed Ike Brown yesterday. However, he was already on the team, and then they ended up releasing him, and now he's back after like a week. So Ike Brown back with the Raiders, but because the Raiders brought back Brown, that also means they have to move on from a player. The player that they're moving on from is Jordan Perriman, who was a UDFA from Washington. And Perriman was a dude who I think I ended up giving like a C- grade on my UDFA grades out there. I wasn't thrilled about him. Not the most athletic player. But when you add a guy like Marcus Peters, and I know how this organization works, they're going to go with the veteran over the unproven UDFA. at this point in training camp. So as it stands right now, here is the Raiders' cornerback depth chart. And there's a lot of reports out there, and we're going to talk about the cornerback room very, very heavily today because that was a lot of the information that I received. If I was the Raiders and I was starting week 1, the 3 guys that are pictured right now would be my starting corners. I'm putting Duke Shelley on the outside. I'm putting Nate Hobbs on the inside. I'm putting Marcus Peters on the outside. And then my other cornerbacks I'm going to rotate in. I'm probably going to rotate in Brandon Faison. I love what I've seen from Jakorian Bennett. And for those of you that are Amic Robertson fans, I got a lot of good stuff around him about to come up here on the show. So since we just kind of led into that, I'm going to give you all my Cliff Notes version, if you will, on Raiders training camp. For those that do not know, I am not in Las Vegas. I am in Dallas, Texas, and I do not attend Raiders training camp. So what do? I reach out to my sources. I reach out to people that are actually there, and I say, hey, give me some notes, give me some information in terms of what you saw today. Probably the thing that instantly I received a text from was, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not practicing today. And I go, oh, shit, what happened? And then I come to realize that, well, today was actually a rest day for Jimmy G. This was planned a long, long time ago that the Raiders are going to give Garoppolo a rest day. So there's no panic button, nothing to be seen. It was just more opportunity for Brian Hoyer and Aidan OConnell. In terms of the players that did not practice today on Friday, it's literally all the same guys that haven't practiced yet at training camp. Neil Farrell Jr., Byron Young, Tyree Wilson, Nate Hobbs still dealing with that eye injury. And then Jacobs, who obviously isn't there because he hasn't signed his franchise tag yet. The next player that we're going to talk about here is Aidan OConnell, and there's mixed reviews out. If you follow Vic Tafur on Twitter, and I used to follow Vic, and I still follow Vic, but the problem with Tafur is he's like that bitter old man who wants you to get off his lawn because ever since McDaniels and Ziegler have taken over, he's lost all his sources. And that's just a cold, hard fact. You look at some of the biggest stories that Tafur has just had a big swing and a miss on. The Khalil Mack trade, said he wouldn't be traded. Davante Adams, said it was never going to happen. A lot of the big stories Tafur has missed on. And at the end of the day, he's bitter about it. And Tafur this entire day today was like, the Raiders quarterback stink. Can we bring back Chase Garbers? Well, I heard from a lot of other sources, and one of the sources that connected me with Marcus Peters and one of the guys that got that inside scoop, so I'm going to believe him over Tafur every day of the week, said that Aidan OConnell looked really good today, said that he looked crisp. All I'm saying is the way social media works is you got to make sure who you follow is giving you the right information. There's a lot of beat reporters out there for the Raiders, but not a lot of those guys have sources. So all I'm saying is this. I'm going to give you both sides. I'm never just going to pick my side unless I am 100% confident that my side is accurate. All I'm saying is mixed reviews out on Raiders training camp. Don't believe everything that you see. Also, another player that continues to impress is Amir White. I don't know if this is the Raiders trying to hype him up because Jacobs isn't there or if he is actually really, truly impressing. Until the pads come on, which don't come on until Tuesday, August 1st, it's always a difficult thing to look at. It's kind of like the NFL Combine, the underwear Olympics is what I like to call it. But I will say, I know players on the Raiders, mainly a lot of the offensive linemen, and they're like, dude, Zamir looks swole, which I like to see. He looks like he's ready to handle a bigger workload. Giggity. Another guy that I want to talk about here is Adam Plant Jr. because there were some good stories that came out around him on Thursday. He was my biggest winner from Raiders minicamp, and he continues to show that he's got a legitimate shot to make this team. And the UDFA out of UNLV, his dad was a former NFL player. So he not only is showing like what he brings to the field, but he's also showing that he's got that mental aspect of it. And I reached out to my guy today, and I said, hey, give me an update on Adam Plant Jr. And all the text said was, dude can play. And he can play. Chandler Jones talked about him now twice this offseason. I legitimately think, if you were to ask me right now, what is the percentage chance that Adam Plant Jr. makes this Raiders 53-man roster? And I'm kind of kicking myself in the ass for it because I did not put him on my latest 53. I'm going to put it at a 70% chance that Plant makes this freaking roster. Another guy that I want to talk about is Raiders rookie cornerback Jakorian Bennett, who looks super athletic. When you think about what certain guys can do in certain schemes, in terms of press man, Jakorian Bennett and Tyree Wilson gets a lot of love because his arms are freakishly long because he's just a giant human being. Jakorian Bennett, like, size-wise, might have the exact same length of arms, like pound for pound, you know what I'm talking about, that Wilson has. Press man coverage, Bennett looks good, and he's got a legitimate chance to start. And if he does start, don't be surprised. I don't think it'll be over Marcus Peters. I don't think it's going to be over Nate Hobbs. It's going to be between Bennett and Duke Shelley right now if the Raiders are smart about the way that they work their roster. Now, in terms of the players that started today on the outside, Marcus Peters was the starting outside cornerback today for the Silver and Black in the 11-on-11s. Brandon Faison also started on the outside today for 11-on-11. So those are two players that are locked and loaded going to make the team. The most interesting thing that I received was the fact that Amic Robertson, he started in the slot today. So that screams to me two things. It screams, one, they're going to put Nate Hobbs in the slot when he comes back, which obviously makes me happy. But there has been very positive reports out there around Robertson, and he might have a shot to end up making this team. There's no doubt about it. However, this is me just trying to put my two things together here of covering this team for a long time. If you remember last offseason, the Raiders had Lester Cotton starting at right guard. It's not because that they thought he was going to be the starting right guard. It was more of they wanted to see how he worked with the starting unit. And if they weren't confident in his ability with the starting unit, well, then they weren't going to be all that confident in him at all. So I think what they're doing right now is they're putting Amic out there, basically the exact same thing that they did with Lester, seeing how he works with the first team, seeing how he goes, and trying to boost up his trade value a little bit. My question to you is this. Give me a yes, or I want you to give me a no. Will Amic Robertson make the 53-man roster? I'm curious of what you guys have to say about this one. I've always been a big fan of Amic, and I think if he would have been put in a different situation, he would have been a lot better off. He's a fighter. He's a scrappy fella. The problem with Robertson was in 2020, he got a brand-new defensive coordinator. 2021, brand-new defensive coordinator. 2022, brand-new defensive coordinator. You do that with a young guy drafted in the 4th round, it's tough. But it also shows how much of a dog he is because he's the only remaining player from the Raiders 2020 draft class. Think about that. The only remaining player from that Raiders 2020 draft class. Thanks, Gruden. Thanks, Mayock. And thanks to all of you who've watched this show as far as you have. Much love to y'all. And if you haven't already, if you're a diehard Raider fan, hit that subscribe button. And don't be afraid to also turn on those notifications. That way, you never miss a video.